This just came in. The High Court of Hong Kong has just extended an interim injunction against the rallying within the city's international airport. This comes in time to prevent another airport assembly protesters are threatening to hold. Hong Kong's civil aviation trade unions earlier issued a joint statement asking for the extension of the injunction, which was set to expire on Friday. Unlawful assembly paralyzed the airport last week. Nearly 1,000 flights were cancelled or delayed, and thousands of people were left stranded. The airport later fired 2 employees over suspicions they leaked security information to the protesters. More insight into the situation in Hong Kong. Let's cross live to Barrister Lawrence Ma and the chairman of the Hong Kong Legal Exchange Foundation. Thank you very much for joining us, Barrister. So let's start with the latest. The airport's interim injunction has just been extended. So does that mean that at least during this weekend, Hong Kong International Airport will be free of those violent protesters?
Well, the injunction actually protected the airport from rioters and protesters from going into it to commit riots and unlawful assembly. But the problem is the rioters are now circumventing the injunction by not going into the airport itself, but by doing a stress test. They call it a stress test of the airport transportation system, so that they will swarm all the buses, all the airport express trains, and other transports. They will swarm them so that people cannot get on them to go to the airport. That's the problem now, where people intending to go to the airport to get on a plane would have to either go much earlier to avoid the crowd, or simply would have to find another way to go to the airport by private transports, for example.
So within the current legal system in Hong Kong, do you see a way to deal with this stress protest that you just talked about? Because if that will go ahead, then it will seriously affect the people's travel as well.
Well, definitely. The injunction is probably the best way, but the injunction was applied by the airport authority. There's a private a statutory body that can apply for an injunction, and the jurisdiction of that body is within the precinct of the airport. But for the transportations going to the airport, you can't get an injunction, because you can't get an injunction, for example, to stop people getting onto the airport express. That's the problem. That's something that the injunction cannot do, because the train is always a fast-moving one. There is a possibility, if we can go deeper on the law, to examine whether the airport express and the trains authority that manages the train can, because they're also a statutory corporation, I think, to actually apply for injunctions to employ people to patrol the trams, so that if there's any people that's suspicious of committing riots, would be stopped from going into the airport express. Now, that's another thing that the airport express and the buses company have to consider.
So, since you mentioned the train, so let's talk a little bit more about Hong Kong's metro system, because of that drama put on by those protesters in Yuan Long Station just yesterday. So, do you think there's a way, actually, those commonly perceived public spaces can deal with this kind of occupation?
For public places, there is a difficulty, but if you remember correctly, during the 2014 Occupying Central movement, they've actually the buses and the minibuses company obtained an injunction restraining people from blocking the intersection in Mong Kok, if you remember that correctly. So the injunction can apply to a specific crowd occupying a public road. Now, that is also a possibility, because public nuisance is a cause of action, and it is a civil wrong, which can be stopped by injunctions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence Ma, barrister and the chairman of the Hong